like the balance that they had in race.
Casey Kane, we congratulate him, his third career pole.
It's all three Hendrick Motorsports in the front.
There's a few movers and shakers out there.
To victory lane is Joey Logano.
Get the inside line on who's fast and who's last before setting your NASCAR fantasy race team this weekend. This is the Inside Line on MRN.com, presented by Hercules Tires. Now, here are your fantasy experts.
Welcome to the New Hampshire version of the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show. Rich Culbreth is stepping in for Robbie Mays today as he is sitting somewhere on a beach, and I'm Tyler Burnett, and we're here to talk about fantasy racing. Rich, the good thing is the two people who are actually good at fantasy are on the show today.
You know, I'm not going to do that to Robbie. We all had a great week this past week at Kentucky Speedway. I mean, you finished 76, I was 57, and Robbie, he was like 115.
Yeah, 115.
Yeah, yep. So all of us had really good runs this past weekend, and we talked about it last week on the show on who was going to be good. There was a couple of them that we didn't get right, and one of them was Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski had trouble there at the beginning of the race and ended up finishing. Well, he wasn't dead last. I think he was second to last. But if you had him on your team, you obviously didn't do too well. But those guys, we got a gift when we talked about Kyle Larson, who did not qualify, started 40th. I put him on my team there at the last minute. Got a lot of those passing points. It did not work for me in Charlotte. If you remember, he had that same situation in Charlotte, and he ended up hitting the wall and didn't get any points. Yeah. But this week it did work out. Ended up finishing second. But I tell you what, Martin Truex Jr.
Unbelievable.
Mile-and-a-half tracks. If we go to a mile-and-a-half, or any track for that matter, Martin Truex Jr. should be on your team.
Definitely. And one of the debates I had, you mentioned Kyle Larson, that I had on Twitter, was do you start Kyle Larson and kind of give up the laps led? Because laps led are so crucial at some of these racetracks, especially with the one you have, 267 laps in the race, and potentially half of those would be points. So I kind of weigh the option of, do you want Truex, Kyle Busch, you know is going to lead laps, or do you want Kyle Larson, who's going to run up to the front and get you, 38 passing points, if you will. So you took, I guess, the both of them with Kyle Larson, Truex, and Kyle Busch, and just kind of threw away your last two picks, and it worked out.
Right. You had a different strategy, and I had no problem with that. You wanted to go with Ryan Blaney and Eric Jones. Both guys did great for you. Eric Jones, I think, got a top 5, and I think a top 10 for Ryan Blaney, but they didn't get the laps led. But in the end, in the very end of the whole thing, it ended up working out where we were pretty much the same. You were like 15, 20 points behind me.
Yep. It's on to the Magic Mile of Loudon, New Hampshire this week, where Joe Gibbs Racing, Rich, has 3 of the last 4 wins, but yet they have not won a race this year, which is unbelievable with 8 races remaining to the playoffs.
I said it on the show last week. I'll say it again this week. It's going to come sooner than later. Somebody from Joe Gibbs Racing is going to win. Going to win at some point or another. It's going to be either Kyle Busch, it'll probably be Denny Hamlin. He's another guy or Matt Kenseth. I mean, we heard some big news this past weekend about Matt Kenseth may not be coming back. Will not be back for Joe Gibbs Racing next year, which is big news. And I put this into my fantasy when I'm starting to pick my picks, that it is a distraction. Whenever you have a distraction, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is another example. Whenever he announces retirement, somebody asked me, well, how are you going to use him for your fantasy thing? I said, well, I'm not going to use him at all because that's a distraction. I mean, this is going to be the last time he's going to go to this race, and this is going to be the last time he's going to go to this race. And so he's going to be answering a lot of questions between now and the end of the season, and I think that's a distraction. Same thing with Matt Kenseth. Now, with that said, Kenseth's numbers at New Hampshire are really good, and we're going to talk about that coming up.
Yeah, his numbers are remarkable at New Hampshire, so we'll talk about those coming up. Also on the show today, Robbie Mays will be calling in from the beach. We'll give him some crap when he calls in. He's probably drinking a Busch beer somewhere and having some fun.
He didn't do that. He drinks pina coladas.
Whatever. We'll play our new game Sideswipe, which we appreciate your feedback on that on Twitter and everything else. It seems like all of you guys like that so far and give some good perspective, so we'll have that coming up. Also, I'll try to avoid The Rock again this week, even though for some reason I lost last week. I guess.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, you almost had it. You were closer last week than you've been in a long time.
And then Rango Fowler will be on the show. That's all coming your way on the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show presented by Hercules Tires.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there. Whether you're running on dirt or running a job, our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
I'm Steve Post.
And I'm Ashley Stremme.
Join us Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. Eastern for MRN's Wing Nation on MAV TV.
The biggest and best names in wing sprint car racing join us for in-depth conversations, and we'll have the latest news from the dirt tracks across America.
Plus, we'll send our girl Lauren into the sprint car pits to give you a behind-the-scenes look at sprint car racing, and we'll have your Tweet Your Seat.
MRN's Wing Nation, Saturdays at 9:30 and 12:30 Eastern on MAV TV.
It's almost the most refreshing time of the day, Busch O'Clock, a time for relaxing and unwinding with friends and family over a crisp, cold Busch beer. Busch's roots are in racing, but whether you're enjoying the race or going fishing, nothing is better when it's time to relax with a crisp, cold Busch. It's Busch O'Clock, so grab a six-pack of Busch beer for the cooler, start the grill, and relax. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch, Busch Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Yay or nay, go or stay. It's time for the inside line to sideswipe the competition. Here's Robbie and Tyler.
Thankfully, it's not Robbie and Tyler. It's Tyler and Rich this week, as Robbie is on
As much as I'm
vacation.
on this show, we should have it where it says Rich every once in a while.
Yeah. Anyways,
Okay.
Anyways, we're going to play a game called Sideswipe. We added, 2 weeks ago now, when Robbie and I were sitting in a garage drinking some cold ones, and he was on this dating app where he was swiping left, swiping right on girls he would like to meet up with. And so we came up with this idea. Let's do it with fantasy racing.
Yeah.
Let's pick some drivers. So
all right, let's do it.
You went first last week, Rich, so I'll let you go first again. Daryl,
you really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Who's our first driver, Daryl?
I'm not hearing anything.
Who's our first driver?
All right. Well, Daryl's getting that worked out. I tell you what. All right. What is it?
Matt Kenseth.
Oh, Matt Kenseth. Okay. We just talked about him just before we went to break about Matt Kenseth. Who do we start? I mean, well, do we start him or not? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to go with Matt Kenseth this week. His numbers are really good at New Hampshire. He's finished in the top 5. I want to say like 6 times out of the last 7 times that we've been there. He's got great numbers. Yes, and I did mention that distraction. Let's see how this works out, okay? I think he still wants to get in victory lane. I think he's still going to win a race before the end of the year. I wouldn't stick a fork in him. He's not quite done yet. So Matt Kenseth, yes.
He has 3 podium finishes in the last 3 races. He has 3 wins in the last 7 races at New Hampshire. So that's pretty ungodly numbers right there for Matt.
And he's
Kenseth.
led a ton of laps too.
Yes, he has. And there's 301 laps. That's a lot of points right there on the line if someone can lead all them laps.
Absolutely.
All right, who's our next driver?
Eric Jones.
Eric Jones. I was pretty impressed with the way this kid ran last week. He's on my fantasy team from last week, as you mentioned in the open of the show, Rich, that I started Ryan Blaney and Eric Jones and dropped Kyle Larson. Eric Jones is a tough one for me because he hasn't raced that many races at New Hampshire. Of course, he had the truck races there. He had a couple of Xfinity races. Just a really technical track, a tough track for someone like Eric Jones. So I'm probably going to swipe left on Eric Jones this week. I'm going to say no on Eric Jones. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Eric Jones, he's an unproven driver. I think he's going to do okay. I don't know if he's going to be a top 10, but I do see maybe a top 15 out of Eric Jones. He's got great equipment, and I think Martin Truex Jr., which we'll talk about a little bit later on, a lot of that information is going to be shared with Eric Jones. And so I think you're going to get a decent run out of him as long as he can keep it between the lines and not crash. This is, as you mentioned, a technical track. I'm not quite sure on Eric Jones. You may have better options, and we'll talk about that later.
It's just
in the show.
it's going to be tough for him to adapt to the Cup car at this racetrack. It's just completely different than the Xfinity cars and the trucks. All right, how about Rich's second pick here?
Jamie McMurray.
Ooh, I was not prepared for Jamie McMurray. I am going to say no. I'm going to swipe right or left. I'm going to swipe left on that one. Jamie McMurray, he had a decent run this past weekend at Kentucky Speedway, and the team's been doing all right. But Jamie McMurray, When I think of New Hampshire, I think there's better options when you go with him, and I think he might be just overpriced right now. I want to say he's like around $23, $24 on NASCAR.com, so I'm not quite sure. Jamie McMurray, he's not going to lead a ton of laps, and that is an important thing.
Yeah.
And I've said this before. I mean, Jamie McMurray has been getting some solid finishes, but he hasn't been leading any laps. In fact, I think he's led a few laps, which was in the Daytona 500. Other than that, he hasn't really led anything. So I'm going to say no on Jamie McMurray.
Yeah, he has 3 top 10s in the last 10 races at New Hampshire. He was fast at Kentucky, but like you said, 301 laps. Your sole purpose right now is to find your top 3 picks and pick guys who are going to lead laps. And you have Matt Kenseth as your first one, so that's potentially a guy who could lead some laps. All right, my second one, Daryl.
Let's go with Kevin Harvick.
Kevin Harvick, that's a good one. I think Kevin Harvick is going to be good this week. And just looking at his numbers, 4 top 5s in the last 5 races at New Hampshire. He won the Chase race at New Hampshire last year. This team, they were pretty decent at Kentucky. I would say they were the 4th best car. I mean, behind Truex, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, and then Kevin Harvick, I thought was the 4th best car at Kentucky. I think Kevin Harvick's going to be good this week, so I'm going to swipe right on Kevin Harvick this week. I think he'll be potentially a good start this week.
I like the Kevin Harvick pick. In fact, he's led 706 laps at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. He's a 2-time winner there, Kevin Harvick. Absolutely. I think the team, though, is just a tweak off, from winning races. And I think once they get that figured out in those Fords, they're going to start winning a lot of races.
They're the best of the Stewart-Haas bunch right now, by far, with Clint Bowyer, Kurt Busch, Danica Patrick. Kevin Harvick out of those 4 is your option. All right, your third and final one. What do we got for Rich?
Let's go with Brad Keselowski.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
That is an interesting one because his numbers there, I mean, he has the best average at 6.7. He finished 4th last time we were at New Hampshire, but this race 1 year ago he finished 15th. I'm not quite sure about Brad Keselowski this past weekend. Obviously, he went out early, but he does well at New Hampshire. I think they're better options, so I'm going to say no. I know it's hard to say this, but no, I'm going to go with a no on him.
Who are the better options to you?
I think the better options is Martin Truex Jr. As far as prices go, Martin Truex Jr., Matt Kenseth, Kevin Harvick. Those are 3 guys, and Kyle Busch. So those are guys that are high priced. I would go with them before I would go with Brad Keselowski.
I'm with you on the Kyle Busch train that Kyle Busch is the better option. I'm not with you on Matt Kenseth being a better option or Martin Truex Jr. Truex has the best cars right now. There's no question about that, but his numbers at New Hampshire scare me. You look back at some of them. Okay, so he only has 3 top 10s in the last 10 races.
Mm-hmm.
That's not all that great at New Hampshire. Now, Brad Keselowski, on the other hand, has unbelievable numbers at New Hampshire. And you just mentioned he has a 6.7 average finish in the last 10 races. He hasn't finished out of the top 10. He's only finished out of the top 10 3 times in the last 10 races. And those finishes were like 11th, 12th, and 15th. I mean, he hardly ever finishes out of the top 10 at New Hampshire.
Yeah, right, but you're talking about Martin Truex Jr. You're right. His numbers at New Hampshire are not great. But let's go back 1 year ago where he led 131 laps of that race. He went on, and the reason why he didn't win that race is because he had a mechanical failure late in the race. So
Okay.
he probably, I'm not saying he should have won, but he was on to win that race. That was the reason why he didn't win that one. And he went on to lead the most laps in the second race in New Hampshire, which was 141 laps. He finished 7th in that race. He had a bad restart late in the race. That was the reason why he didn't win that one. You're right. There's some bad things happened, but I won't say this track owes any track owes anybody anything.
Yeah.
But I think Martin Truex Jr., he should have won this one a year ago. I think he gets it this time.
I guess my point is with Brad Keselowski, if you're looking for a guy who's going to lead some laps, who's good at New Hampshire, he's likely going to stay in front rather than a Matt Kenseth who usually is just there at the end. Or I just think there's not many better options than Brad Keselowski. But we'll see what happens, I guess. He struggled at Kentucky.
Look, I put about 4th or 5th online, and that's where we need to watch practice. Watch practice and qualifying. If you want to go with the guy that wins the pole, I'm not quite sure about that. Did you know that out of the 44 races that we've had at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, only 5 times the pole winner has gone on to win the race?
Wow.
Only 5 times. So
Wow.
maybe, and sometimes we do that. Sometimes we'll go with that pole winner because we know we're going to get laps led there at the beginning of the race, but I'm not quite sure this is going to work this time.
All right, my third and final one here, Daryl, before we go to break.
Let's do Ryan Newman.
Ryan Newman. Ooh, that is I'm not even going to give any stats. I would not start Ryan Newman this week. I will swipe left on Ryan Newman. He's so far down in the stats right now. What do we got here? 20th the last time we were there. He had a 7th place finish in this race last year, I guess. So maybe as a buy. I just think he's too expensive. I think he's too expensive for where he's going to finish. I don't even know if RCR was on the lead lap last week at all.
They had a bad week.
Yeah,
bad week.
With Austin Dillon, right. Ryan Newman, Paul Menard. Those 3 cars were not even on the lead lap the majority of the race at Kentucky. I just think they're not where they need to be right now.
I tell you, and since we're talking about RCR, I've seen some good runs out of Austin Dillon at New Hampshire in the past. Yeah. There's been times, now he's got an 8th place finish. I don't think he's ever finished worse than 20th. So maybe Austin Dillon, if you're trying to maybe budget some of your guys, he might be a little cheaper on your list. But Austin Dillon, I would go with him over Ryan Newman, though.
And what's still remarkable to me is that RCR is struggling this bad on the racetracks. They still have 2 wins. Joe Gibbs Racing does not have a single win with 4 cars, which is unbelievable. So hats off to RCR. Being in the right place at the right time. They won the biggest race, well, arguably one of the biggest races all year, and of course won at Phoenix. All right, Robbie Mays is on the phone. He's sitting somewhere on a beach, so we're going to talk to him next. This is the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show presented by Hercules Tires.
If your AC is blowing hot air, let O'Reilly Auto Parts help bring back the cool this summer. While you may need to eventually service your AC unit, get immediate relief with Interdynamics R134A refrigerant with leak sealer. Buy 2, get 1 free at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. On September 9th, when the sun goes down and the lights come up, racing excitement under the Richmond night sky will be at its most electrifying. Don't miss the chaos of a final race of the 2017 Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series season at Richmond International Raceway. It's the Federated Auto Parts 400, where the first ever Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series regular season champion will be crowned. Buy your tickets at RIR.com. Richmond International Raceway, where chaos at every corner makes for a night that never ends.
Hey, this is Dale Earnhardt Jr. here. When I have friends and guests at the track who want to hear me during the race,
appreciate all the hard work.
I send them the Racing Electronics.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. will win!
That's because if you're not listening to all the action live, you're missing out. Go to racingelectronics.com to pre-rent for great discounts on scanners,
Second flag right here, big wreck in your mirror,
and Fan Vision rentals.
Checkered flag, ready to fly. It's Earnhardt in turn 3.
Or see Racing Electronics and Fan Vision trackside at every NASCAR race.
I love you, man. Thank you. Unbelievable!
Welcome back to the Inside Line.
Welcome back to the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show presented by Hercules Tires. As I mentioned, Rich Culbreth is on the show today, thankfully, because he actually knows what he's talking about when it comes to fantasy racing.
Oh, you're so sweet.
We don't usually get along, so that's actually kind of surprising, as you saw in the last segment. Robbie Mays is on the phone, and he's also standing beside his dad, who his dad beat him in well, frankly, everyone in this office beat Robbie Mays in fantasy racing.
Well, not everybody.
Weekend. Even the chicken. Even
yep.
Rango Fowler beat Robbie Mays. Robbie, what are you doing? How are you?
I'm not really sure why I answered the phone this morning because I thought I told Rich never to call me.
I didn't call you. You were screening my calls, but you weren't screening, I guess, someone else's.
It's possible.
So where are you at right now? What are you doing?
Well, I'm sitting on a beach somewhere in a undisclosed location because I don't want anybody to come find me. And got
as if anybody's looking for you.
Had breakfast, and right now it's almost the most refreshing time of day. It's almost bush o'clock. So,
all right.
Robbie's having a good time today.
That's for me. As soon as the sun rises, it's bush o'clock for me.
Yes, I've seen that personally.
Let's talk a little fantasy racing this week, even though you. Since you're on vacation, you probably don't care, and you're probably not going to watch the race.
Well, that's what we normally do on the show is talk a little bit about fantasy racing.
Yeah. So who do you like going to New Hampshire this week? Rich says he doesn't like Brad Keselowski. I disagree with him.
I think Rich is taking a cue from your playbook and not being very smart about that. I like Brad Keselowski this weekend in New Hampshire. Flat, slick racetrack. That's Brad's forte. His momentum a little bit scares me, though, the last couple of months. I guess ever starting with Charlotte, he's had fast race cars, but he's just had bad luck the last month or so. He's having a downtime right now. Joey Logano, his teammate, is kind of having a downtime right now. So I'm not really sure what's up with Brad, but he's got the 2 wins, so he's locked in the playoffs. So, right now it's kind of experimentation for that bunch. But New Hampshire is a good place to try something for when we come back in the fall to try to, get more playoff points and try to get to the next round in the fall.
Yeah, Logano's not even a guy we've talked about yet. He has 4 top 5s in the last 5 races. That might be a good start as well. What do you think?
Penske, as Robbie mentioned, the momentum, and that's what scares me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I didn't say don't go with Brad Keselowski at New Hampshire.
Sure.
I mean, come on. His numbers are, like said, 6.7 average in the last 10 races there. But
you tried to tell me there's 5 better options better than him, and I disagree.
All right, Robbie, let me ask you that. Are there better options for Brad Keselowski over him?
Yes.
Who would you go with over Brad?
Martin Truex.
Okay,
I didn't disagree with that.
All right, who else?
I think you have to take a look this weekend at Kyle Busch.
Yep.
Okay,
I think you have to take a look this weekend at a guy like maybe Jimmy Johnson. And I think you have to take a look this weekend at a guy like Kyle Larson. Now, I know Larson's his first 2 races here were 3rd and 2nd, and then he had a 31st, 2 17th, and last fall he was 10th. But that was last year before they figured out whatever it was they figured out in the offseason. So I think you got to look at Larson this weekend as well.
Well, you
would put Larson.
4 guys right there.
Okay, so 4 guys. You got 4 guys.
You would put Larson. I mean, you would put Larson, who struggles at this racetrack in the last 4 races. You would put Jimmy Johnson, who his best finish in the last 10 races is 2nd. So, and that was before I was even born. It seems like. I mean, 2nd. That was in 2000.
Shut up.
That was in 2012. I was still in college then when he finished 2nd. So you're going to take Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Larson over Brad Keselowski, who is unbelievable at New Hampshire.
Probably.
Oh.
I mean,
all right. Well, let me ask you this.
Honestly, let me tell you the guy who I would love to put on my team this weekend. Okay, Matt Kenseth.
Okay.
But that team right now, I mean, he's finished 6th, 1st, and 2nd in the last 4 races in New Hampshire, and he won in the fall of 2013 as well. So in the last 10 races, he's got 3 wins. But realistically, and I don't want to offend any Matt Kenseth fans out there because I know there are a lot of you, does he have a shot to run top 5 this weekend? I don't think so.
Yes,
but based on his numbers, I would think you would want to put him on your team.
You don't think Kenseth has a chance to run in the top 5 this week?
What are you drinking there? Have you already started drinking? I think you have.
Oh my goodness. We just had a graphic up. We just had a graphic up, Robbie, that said you watched all 8 Star Wars movies in one sitting. Is this correct?
I've done that in one weekend before, yes.
It's a wonder why he has to go on these websites to find women.
I'm not the one on trial here, okay? We're talking
I'm just saying, you're not going to find one
you're
watching
on trial
Star
now
Wars.
when you dropped that thing about Matt Kenseth. Now you're on trial. What about Dale Earnhardt Jr. this week? That car was really good the last time we were at New Hampshire with Alex Bowman.
Yeah.
Junior has some good numbers at New Hampshire, especially in the last 10 races. He has the 5th best average finish at 10.8. What do you think? Does Dale Earnhardt Jr. run in the top 10 this week?
I think he is capable of running in the top 10, and you got to remember he didn't run either of the races here last year because this was the first race after he announced he was stepping out of the car for a while. So he hasn't raced here since the fall of 2015, and that was a 25th place run. Although the last time he raced here in July, it was a 5th place run. I think that team right now, they're so far up in the air. I don't really know what to make of the EAE bunch right now. They had a good showing at Kentucky the other night. I could see Junior contending for a top 10. If he qualifies mid-pack, if he qualifies 20th or worse, then sure. But if he qualifies, if he makes it to the final round of qualifying later on today, I wouldn't put him on my team. But if he qualifies outside of the top 20, then yeah, I might look at him.
All right.
Just for the passing points.
All right. Well, that sounds pretty good. I'm just still surprised at the Matt Kenseth thing because I was putting Matt Kenseth above Brad Keselowski, and I can't believe you guys.
I'm close to he's right though. Kenseth has struggled, but you can't deny the numbers. Kyle Busch is definitely ahead of Brad Keselowski in my opinion. I mean, you look at some of the tracks he's been good at this year. Phoenix, he dominated that race. Obviously, led a lot of laps there. Martinsville, and that's the reason why I think Brad Keselowski is a guy you have to start this week because look at Martinsville. He led so many laps at Martinsville.
Yeah.
They're not exactly the same racetrack, I guess, but it's a flat short track. Penske's flat short track program is great right now, and so is Kyle Busch. So I think those two are must starts.
What about some back markers, Robbie? Who would you look at as far as someone that might be cheap on the pay scale there? Who would you go with on that? New Hampshire is just a tough track for these guys for some reason.
Yeah, it's really as much as, the Truck Series runs there, the Xfinity Series runs there, you've got the K&N E Series that runs up there, Modified runs up there. So, if you've had to work your way up through the NASCAR home track system and into the Truck and Xfinity Series, you have the potential to have turned a lot of laps up there. But for some reason, when these guys get up to the Cup Series, it's just hard to get a hold of. I think Ty Dillon has been running better the last few weeks. He's a mid-range option at like $13, $14, $15. AJ Allmendinger, to me, this seems like a track that would kind of fit his driving style a little bit. He's in there at that $15 range as well. So either of those two guys, might be good, viable options. If you're going down further than that, I've been riding the Michael McDowell train for the last several weeks. I've got him locked in for, I believe, $10.25 on NASCAR.com. So he would be a good choice this weekend as well. Some of these other guys, though, I mean, it's like I'd rather have two $5 drivers and be able to get the Truexes or the Kyle Bushes or the Brad Keselowskis in the world. That's been my strategy for a lot of the season, and it's worked occasionally. It hasn't worked every week, but my big three on Saturday in Kentucky were the 78, the 18, and the 4. So I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if I had the same top three going to New Hampshire on Sunday afternoon.
Yep. Danica Patrick, how do you see her doing this weekend? No, let me
I'm swiping left on
say
Danica
this.
this weekend.
Let me say this.
I actually have notes on her too.
14th and 18th, respectively, last year, and she even led some race. She led some laps. She led like 9 laps at one of those races.
Wasn't that during a series of pit stops though?
No. Well, she stayed out. You're right. It was pit strategy, but she did stay out. But as far as guys that are cheap, she is like around $10. I'd say Danica Patrick, depending on where she qualifies. If she qualifies in the top 15, don't go with her. But if she's back there around 29th or so, definitely go with Danica Patrick. She's cheap, and I think you'll be able to get some.
Robbie, we're up against the break here, so we for some reason,
mercifully,
thankfully we have to let you go. But first, who's your winner this week?
78.
78?
I'll go Truex.
Oh my
back
goodness.
to back.
Who's your dad pick? Ask him real quick.
Hey, who do you have this weekend? Who's your winner? They want to know. Okay, he says 4.
Okay, because his picks mean more than yours. So, yeah. So Kirk Mays, Robbie's dad, picks the 4 to win. Today. Robbie, thanks. Enjoy your beverages, and hopefully you don't do well this week like you always do.
Thanks. I appreciate your confidence in me, buddy. I really do.
Congratulations on being in the top 1,000 now.
All right, we'll be back on the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show in just a bit as I avoid a rock in the next segment. This is the Inside Line. We'll talk to you in a bit.
I'm Steve Letarte, STP auto expert and former crew chief. I know what it takes to keep engines performing at their best. STP's latest breakthrough additive, STP Ultra 5-in-1 plus Fuel System Cleaner plus Fuel Stabilizer, delivers 3 times the amount of cleaning agents versus premium gasoline and helps keep fuel fresh during storage. For over 60 years, STP has been on the cutting edge developing products to help engines run better, longer.
One bottle contains 3 times by weight the amount of cleaning agents compared to 20 gallons of the leading premium gasoline.
When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
It's almost Busch o'clock. A time for relaxing and unwinding with a crisp, cold Busch beer. It's the most refreshing time of the day. Wait for it. 3, 2, 1. Busch. Crisp, cold Busch. Enjoy responsibly. Busch Beer. Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
Let's talk more fantasy racing on the Inside Line. Once again, here's Frick and Frack.
Welcome back to the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show. I'm Rich Culbreth alongside Tyler Burnett. It's time to play our favorite game called Under a Rock or Tyler Burnett.
Do you live your life up under a rock, or are you Tyler Burnett?
They have beautiful vocals.
Yeah, all right.
They have
All
beautiful
right.
vocals.
Here we go. Today we've got a picture. All you got to do is just say who it is, and you win the game today.
That's it?
That's it. You just got to name the picture. So let's throw the picture up there. Who is it today?
Oh,
Hey. Someone of recent pop culture, someone in your era, from New Hampshire.
I know of this person.
You know of this person. You've never. So have you seen this person before?
Yes, I have seen this person.
Okay. Well, who do you think it is?
Is her first name Sarah?
Okay. All right.
Is that correct?
Yes, her first name is Sarah.
Is her last name Silverman?
That is right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, there you go. Congratulations, brother. Congratulations.
I'm still waiting for the rock.
He doesn't get hit by the rock. All right, let's go on. Let's check in with Rango.
Oh, man.
Let's see who Rango thinks will win this weekend.
Oh, my goodness. You like that picture?
Yeah, I like that. That's funny.
Yeah, that's good. All right,
Let's see. Come on, Rango. Come on. We don't have a whole lot of time here, Rango. Come on.
The producer's already mad at us
All right,
for how long
here we
the
go.
break's taken here. So.
Rango's been doing pretty well recently, and I believe
beat Robbie last week, but
yeah.
that's not that hard.
No. All right, here are Rango's picks for this weekend in New Hampshire. He's got Kevin Harvick, Danica Patrick. Hey, see, he believes in Danica as well. Martin Truex Jr. He's got Matt Kenseth and Darrell Wallace Jr. Now, I don't know if Darrell Wallace Jr. will be in the car.
Likely will not be.
So
when this show airs, you will know if Darrell Wallace Jr. is in the car or he's not in the car. I guess what's happening is Eric Almirola is going to be testing on Tuesday, and then Wednesday is when they're going to find out if Eric Almirola will be in the car this week.
And he's got Kyle Busch as his winner.
All right.
Kyle Busch, and Toyota is a car mate.
All right.
So Kyle Busch didn't really work out this weekend. Hey, it's not a bad pick. I like that. It's pretty
Danica must have had a little more crumbs on her, piece of,
No.
number 10. That's why Rango went that way.
Danica did not. All right.
Anyways, all right. Who's your winner?
I'm going to have to go with Truex. I'm going to go with Truex.
I'm just going to pick the same thing as Robbie.
Yeah, why not? I did last week.
I kind of like where Kirk Mays is going with Robbie's dad. I like the Kevin Harvick pick.
I think Kevin Harvick would be fine.
I don't. I think that Joe Gibbs Racing wins this week. I've already said that Kyle Busch is going to win 3 wins before the playoffs. And Kentucky was one of those races I thought was going to be it. But let's just move it on to New Hampshire. I think Kyle Busch wins this week in New Hampshire. I think he wins at Indy, and I think he wins at Pocono.
All right. That's it.
All right.
I'm done.
All right. Do you like seafood? We're going to New Hampshire this week.
I like food when I see it.
You like lobsters and stuff.
I do. I like all kinds of seafood. I've never been in the New England area, believe it or not. I've never been to New Hampshire. I've as far north I've been is New York, and I shoot Myrtle Beach all the time, and I've gone to a lot of nice places for seafood, but never up in the New England area.
The best part about New England for the big boys like us is that it stays pretty cool all year round. It doesn't get too hot.
Yeah,
that's the best part. All right. We're racing at New Hampshire this week, the Overton's 301. Next week, where we head to Indy?
Something like that.
Yeah, Kyle Busch will likely dominate that race. Eldora is going to be the next Wednesday in the Truck Series, so enjoy that. All right, enjoy the racing this weekend in New Hampshire. Robbie Mays will be back next week. I will as well. We'll talk to you then on the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show, presented by Hercules Tires.
You've been listening to the Inside Line, presented by Hercules Tires. Stream us every Friday on MRN.com or the MRN app. The Inside Line is also available on demand in the MRN.com Media Center, on our Facebook page, on YouTube, or download it through iTunes or Google Play. The Inside Line is a production of the Motor Racing Network.